Hey y'all, it's Sandra Nemoto, the Content Doctor, and I'm back with 5 tips on how to run a better company. Why? Because we've been seeing a lot of scandals in the news lately, and I think it's a reminder for all of us, especially those of us starting new businesses, on how we can get off to a good start before we get into a public crisis. Number 1, pay living wages. Now you might think that minimum wage is the bar to start off with, but in cities like Vancouver, where it is very expensive just to live here, minimum wage is not going to cut it. So in Vancouver, living wage is pretty much close to $20 an hour, and that is what you should probably be paying your first employees. Now, I know a lot of solopreneurs and virtual businesses might be tempted to outsource their work to people who work in other countries, thereby cutting costs on staff, but this is a reminder that you get what you pay for. So if at some point you're not happy with the service, that's probably why. If you don't have any employees, but you have suppliers, also be respectful of their rate. They might be charging way more than $20 an hour, but especially if you're sourcing from experts, be respectful of that wage. The second tip is hiring diverse staff, suppliers, and contractors. Now, I know it can be hard not to have a bias when you're doing interviewing, but you want to really consider all genders for your roles, especially those who might be LGBTQ. Also, don't discriminate on age. And if you find that you're doing the hiring as a company owner and you're having trouble getting over your own unconscious bias, that leads me to tip number 3, which is get human resources staff or experts. So I'm seeing a lot of companies who have been getting criticized in the news, and only now they're hiring HR people. And I'm very surprised that they haven't had somebody on their staff before to be doing the hiring in the first place. HR is not a band-aid solution. It is a foundation for running a company, especially if you're growing quickly and you need to hire people. So if you're a solopreneur like me and you're hiring your first employee, maybe you don't need an HR person just yet, but if you're putting somebody on payroll, make sure you hire a consultant and get that expertise. Maybe even get that person to do the hiring for you, so then you can work on training that person when they're hired. Tip number 4 is prioritizing and incentivizing wellness. So be very clear about your sick day policies, your vacation policies. You should have contracts for this kind of stuff anyway. Be respectful of your employees' religious holidays. Consider having Juneteenth, a holiday for your Black employees. One great example is Left Coast Naturals. I know for a fact that they have incentives for those who commute by bicycle or carpool or transit and those kinds of things that reduce the one person per car traffic on the road, and so they give incentives to their employees who do that. If you have a cafeteria on your premises, consider serving more healthy food than the junk that's usually in vending machines, and consider removing meat. Don't want to get into that too much, but that's number 4. And tip number 5 is to admit when you're wrong. No company is perfect, so if an employee is unhappy at your company, you want to deal with it right away. That's why number 3 is so important, because you want to deal with an employee before it becomes a crisis after they leave. When it comes to products and you have to do a recall for any reason, inform your customers as soon as possible and make sure you're doing things like offering replacements or refunds if the products are not going to be satisfactory. Now, what does this all have to do with content, you might ask? Everything. So the more good that you're doing at your company, the more content you have to talk about. Things like your wellness incentives are stuff that you can blog about and brag about on social. And even if it's something that you did wrong, that can be a valuable business lesson that you can talk about on podcasts, in the news, and in all your content. So I hope that was helpful, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.